What the hell are you doing in my bed? Steven Davidson's voice sliced through the California night like breaking crystal. He stood frozen in the doorway of the master suite at Filoli Estate, his tailored suit soaked from the woodside downpour, staring at the impossible scene before him. His hands clenched into fists, his jaw locked tight. All his attention fixed on the woman sprawled across his California king mattress. Sarah Smith, the 29th nanny in 6 months. The one who'd somehow lasted 3 full weeks. She lay there, eyes closed, her natural hair spread across Caroline's pillow. Wrapped around her like drowning children clinging to driftwood were his 6-year-old triplets, Edna, Elliot, and Ernest. For the first time since their mother's funeral 8 months ago, they weren't screaming, weren't thrashing in night terrors, weren't begging for a woman who'd never answer again. They were just breathing. Deeply. Peacefully. Edna's small hand clutched Sarah's sleeve. Elliot's cheek pressed against her shoulder. Ernest's thumb rested near his mouth, no longer trembling. Sarah's eyes snapped open, deep brown, exhausted, but steady. No guilt flickered there. Just bone-deep tiredness. Mr. Davidson. I can explain. The slap came faster than thought. Faster than reason. Faster than the tech billionaire who'd built an empire on calculated decisions could remember he was supposed to be civilized. The crack echoed off the vaulted ceilings like a gunshot. Sarah's head snapped to the side. Her hand flew to her cheek. But she didn't cry out. Didn't scream. Didn't even speak. Her dark eyes just found his, stunned not by his rage, but by his cruelty. I don't give a damn what your excuse is, Steven growled, his voice low and venomous. You're fired. Pack your shit and get out of my house. Now. Sarah stood slowly, her hand still pressed to her burning cheek, steadying her breath. When she finally spoke, her voice came out barely above a whisper. Not from fear, but from something else. Something that sounded like pity. They begged me not to leave them, she said quietly, her eyes never leaving his. Ernest had a nosebleed. Edna had a panic attack. Elliot was hitting himself. I stayed because they were finally calm. Finally safe. I said get out. Sarah glanced down at the children, still sleeping so deeply, it was like watching peace personified. She leaned over with infinite gentleness and kissed the top of Edna's head. Then Elliot's. Then Ernest's. She whispered something Steven couldn't hear, her lips moving against Ernest's curls. Then she stepped away from the bed, shoes in hand, and walked past Steven without another word. Her spine straight. Her dignity intact. The red handprint blooming across her brown skin like evidence. He didn't stop her. Didn't apologize. Didn't even move. Downstairs, Mrs. Chun, the housekeeper who'd been with the family for 12 years, turned as Sarah descended the grand staircase. The older woman's eyes went wide at the mark on Sarah's face. Her hand flew to her mouth. Sarah shook her head once. A silent plea. Don't. Mrs. Chen's face hardened with something that looked like disgust. But she stepped aside. Outside, the Northern California rain had softened to a drizzle. The estate's grounds stretched out in manicured perfection under security lights, 67 acres of money and loneliness. Sarah pulled her coat tighter around her black uniform and began the long walk toward the iron gates. Her footsteps on the gravel were the only sound. Back upstairs, Steven stood in the master bedroom, his chest heaving. He looked at the bed again, his jaw still tight, and then something penetrated his rage. The quiet. He moved closer, his expensive shoes silent on the plush carpet. Edna's face was smooth. No furrovet brow. No tears tracking down her cheeks. Elliot wasn't whimpering or calling for his mother. Ernest's small body was completely relaxed, his breathing steady and deep. They were asleep. Not sedated. Not exhausted from hours of crying. Just asleep. Steven's throat constricted. 17 nannies. 2 child psychologists. 3 different medications. Countless sleepless nights of screaming, hitting, chaos. And this woman, this soft-spoken stranger from Oakland who'd worked at Walmart 2 years ago, had managed what none of them could. And he'd struck her. He sat down hard on the edge of the bed, his head dropping into his hands. Shame crawled through his chest like poison through veins. On the nightstand, a folded piece of paper caught his eye. Hotel stationery from a conference he'd spoken at months ago. He reached for it with shaking fingers. The handwriting was neat, deliberate. They don't need someone who leaves. They need someone who stays, even when you don't deserve it. It wasn't signed. Steven read it once. Twice. 3 times. The words blurred. His reflection stared back at him from the mirror across the room. A man hollowed out by grief, hardened by wealth, drowning in control he couldn't maintain. A man who'd just destroyed the only person his children trusted. Down the hall, Mrs. Chen appeared in the doorway. Her voice was soft but sharp as a blade. "Sir," she said. She didn't touch a thing in here that wasn't necessary. Only brought them in when Ernest had the nosebleed. Blood everywhere. Edna was hyperventilating. Elliot was slamming his head against the wall. Steven didn't respond. Couldn't. She stayed because they asked. Mrs. Chen continued. That's all. They didn't ask for me. Didn't ask for you. Just her. Steven looked up slowly, his eyes hollow with something deeper than anger now. Something that tasted like regret mixed with fear. Outside, the iron gates creaked as they closed behind Sarah Smith. And for the first time in 8 months, Filoli Estate was silent. Not with grief. Not with rage. But with something else entirely. Peace. The fragile, heartbreaking kind that Sarah had left behind. The house felt wrong in the stillness. Not the comfortable quiet of snowfall on redwoods or pages turning in Stanford's library. This was the hollow quiet of a question left screaming in the dark. The kind that demanded an answer Steven Davidson wasn't sure he could give. Upstairs, 3 children slept. Downstairs, Mrs. Chen locked the doors with more force than necessary. And somewhere on Canada Road, walking toward the bus stop in the rain, Sarah Smith touched her swelling cheek and wondered if love was always this violent before it learned to be gentle. Stay with this story by subscribing. And if your heart feels close to it already, tell me the city you're watching from, because sometimes distance makes stories feel even more real. Steven Davidson's red-eye from Singapore had been diverted to SFO 3 hours early due to typhoon warnings. He'd texted no one. The Tesla navigated Highway 280 on autopilot while he answered emails, his mind already in tomorrow's board meeting. He didn't expect to find his children awake at midnight. He certainly didn't expect to find them in his bed. With her. Mrs. Chen intercepted him at the top of the stairs, her face tight with worry. Mr. Davidson, I tried calling. What the hell is she doing in my bedroom? Ernest had a nosebleed. A bad one. Edna started hyperventilating. Elliot was hitting himself against the wall. Sarah couldn't calm them anywhere else. They begged for her. But Steven was already moving, rage flooding his veins like ice water turned to steam. He shoved open the master bedroom door. The scene burned into his retinas. Sarah Smith sprawled across Caroline's side of the bed. His children wrapped around her like she belonged there. Like she had any right to occupy the space his wife had left empty. What the hell are you doing in my bed? The slap happened before thought. Before humanity. Before he remembered he was supposed to be better than his own father. Sarah's head snapped sideways. She touched her cheek but didn't cry. Didn't beg. Just kissed each sleeping child and walked past him carrying nothing but her dignity and the shame he should have felt. After she left, Steven stood trembling in the doorway. Then he saw it. Edna's peaceful face. Elliot's steady breathing. Ernest's relaxed hands. Mrs. Chen's voice came soft behind him. She sang them your wife's lullaby. The one you forgot. On the nightstand lay a folded note. They don't need someone who leaves. They need someone who stays, even when you don't deserve it. Steven sank to the floor beside the bed and stayed there until dawn broke over the Santa Cruz Mountains, watching his children sleep and understanding, finally, what he destroyed. 3 days after Sarah left, the triplets stopped speaking entirely. They wouldn't eat Mrs. Chen's carefully prepared meals. Wouldn't respond to their father's increasingly desperate attempts at connection. At night, the screaming returned, worse than before, like something inside them had shattered beyond repair. Nanny number 30 lasted 90 minutes before Elliot threw a lamp at her head. Number 31 made it to hour 2 before Ernest's nosebleed sent her running to her Prius, sobbing about lawsuit liability. On the 4th night, Ernest whispered his first words since Sarah's departure. "Where's Sarah?" Steven had no answer that didn't make him a monster. He found her through a private investigator who felt guilty taking money for such an easy job. Sarah Smith volunteered every Thursday at an Oakland community center, leading a grief support group for parents who'd lost children. Steven drove across the Bay Bridge feeling like a man walking to his own execution. The community center smelled like industrial coffee and old carpet. 40 people sat in a circle of folding chairs. Sarah stood in the center, her voice steady as she spoke about a daughter named Amara. About leukemia. About choosing to let go when the pain became bigger than the love. Steven waited in the parking lot until everyone left. Then he walked back inside. "I came to apologize to Sarah Smith," he said loudly enough that the janitor mopping nearby would hear. Would witness. "I hurt her. I was wrong. I'm asking for a second chance I don't deserve." Sarah studied him with those devastating eyes. "Your children deserve better than your worst moment."
"So do I."
"If I come back, things change." In the parking lot, under flickering streetlights, she laid out her terms.
C'est par la suite.
$125,000 salary. Director of Child Wellness.
No surveillance cameras.
Weekly family meetings. And if you ever raise your hand to me or anyone else again, I'm gone. No second chances. Steven agreed to everything. The next morning, when Sarah walked through the front door, the triplets ran to her like drowning children finally reaching shore. Elliot sobbed into her shoulder. Edna wrapped both arms around her waist. Ernest just held her hand and wouldn't let go. The first family meeting happened in the breakfast nook, not the formal dining room. Sarah spread crayons across the table like peace offerings. "We're making new rules," she announced. "Everyone gets a vote." Ernest drew a mouth with a red X through it. No yelling. Edna sketched 2 stick figures hugging. Hugs before bed. Elliot's contribution was more pointed. A man at a table with 3 small figures. Dad has to be home for dinner 3 times a week. Sarah taped them to the Sub-Zero refrigerator. The estate chef, who'd been preparing separate gourmet meals for adults and children for years, stared like she'd committed sacrilege. Taco Tuesday became sacred. Steven fumbled with tortillas, spilled cheese everywhere, somehow managed to set lettuce on fire. The triplets laughed, actually laughed, for the first time since their mother's funeral. Sarah caught his eye across the carnage and smiled. At bedtime, she instituted grateful and grumpy. Each person shared one good thing and one hard thing from their day. Steven discovered he didn't know how to talk about feelings without turning them into business metrics. Ernest's stutter worried her most. The Stanford speech therapist confirmed it wasn't developmental, it was fear. Sarah taught him to blow bubbles, matching his breath to the floating spheres. Slowly, the words came easier. She found the granola bars hidden in Edna's closet by accident. Dozens of them, squirreled away like treasure. Mrs. Chen quietly admitted Caroline had sometimes forgotten to feed them during her depressive episodes. Sarah installed a snack basket in Edna's room that night. "This is yours. It will always be full. You don't have to hide food anymore." Elliot's rage came in waves. During the worst tantrum, he screamed, "I hate you. You're not my mom." Sarah knelt to his level. "You're right. I'm not. And I'm not trying to be. I'm trying to be someone you can count on. Your mom can't come back, but I can show up. Every day." He cried in her arms for an hour. Steven canceled a Tokyo trip to attend Ernest's school play. He was terrible at being present, checked his phone 14 times, but he was there. In the 3rd row.
Clapping.
Sarah noticed. Late one night, over wine in the kitchen after the children slept, Steven asked quietly, "What if we did this for more families? Built something that actually works?" Sarah studied him. "Then you have to stop thinking of it as charity and start thinking of it as justice." His eyes held hers. "Teach me how." The attorneys arrived during Edna's 7th birthday party. the first without Caroline. They walked through the garden where 30 children chased bubbles and ate cupcakes and served Steven Davidson with custody papers in front of everyone. Edna ran to her room sobbing. The Whitmores hadn't even come themselves. They'd sent lawyers instead. Steven read the petition that night, his hands shaking. Emotional instability. Inappropriate relationship with domestic staff. Failure to provide culturally appropriate care. Ernest's stutter listed as evidence of neglect. Elliot's behavior charts from school weaponized as proof of dysfunction. Sarah found him at 2 a.m. in his study, the papers spread across his desk like accusations. "I'll leave," she said quietly. "Make the case easier."
No.
His voice was steel. "They're coming for me because I changed. Because we're not the family they recognize anymore. I'm not giving them the power to decide what family looks like." Dr. Yolanda Martinez from Stanford Children's Hospital came to assess the triplets. She interviewed them separately in the sunroom. Edna, straightforward. Sarah doesn't try to be mommy. She's just
Sarah.
And she stays. Elliot, angry and defensive. Grandma and Grandpa only visited twice. They didn't even come to Mommy's funeral. A lie. They'd been there, but trauma had rewritten his memories. Ernest, his stutter returning under stress. I don't want to leave Sarah. Sarah spent 2 weeks building their case. Sleep charts showing improvement. School reports documenting behavioral progress. Photos of family dinners, hiking trips at Huddit Park, art projects covering the refrigerator. Testimony letters from teachers, Dr. Martinez, Mrs. Chen. Ernest's speech therapy notes. Her own journal, meticulous documentation of 3 children learning to breathe again. The mediation happened at a downtown law office. The Whitmores brought society friends as character witnesses, Pacific Heights aristocracy in pearls and judgment. Catherine Whitmore spoke in soft, concerned tones. "We just think the children need stability. Someone who understands their background." Robert was more direct. "You hired a woman with no credentials, Steven. She's not even a licensed therapist." Sarah sat silent, taking notes, until Catherine said, "The children need to be raised by family." Then Sarah spoke. "I was raised by family. 12 different families, actually. That's how I ended up in foster care. Blood doesn't make you safe." The mediation collapsed. That night, Steven told Sarah what he'd never said aloud. Caroline was going to leave me. She'd already consulted a divorce lawyer. The Whitmores don't know. But the truth is, I failed her before she died. I was never present. Sarah's response was simple. Then be present now. That's all you can do. The San Mateo County courtroom smelled like furniture polish and fear. James Feldman, the Whitmore attorney, opened with photographs, Sarah's cheek, swollen and dark, captured by someone at her grief group. He called an expert witness who'd never met the triplets but spoke confidently about children needing maternal stability, not staff. Steven's attorney, Rebecca Wu, countered with transformation. Progress reports. Dr. Martinez's assessment. The children's clear attachment. Catherine Whitmore took the stand in Chanel and tears. "We just want what's best for our grandchildren. Steven is drowning. These children need more than someone's best. They need family." Steven's testimony was unflinching. "I assaulted Sarah Smith. There's no justification. I was drowning in grief and rage, and I took it out on the one person saving my children. I can't undo it. I can only be different going forward." Feldman's voice dripped contempt. "You make 7 figures, Mr. Davidson. Why Miss Smith? Because she doesn't see my children as a job. She sees them as humans." Then Sarah took the stand. Feldman attacked immediately. "No degree in child psychology, correct?" "Correct." "And you lost custody of your own daughter?" "My daughter died of leukemia, Mr. Feldman. I didn't lose custody." Rebecca Wu's redirect was gentle. "Ms. Smith, what qualifies you to care for grieving children?" Sarah's voice was steady, devastating. "I know what it feels like to be 6 years old and wonder if anyone will ever love you again. I know what it's like to lose everyone and figure out how to keep breathing." Ernest's stutter isn't a disorder, it's fear. Edna doesn't hoard food because of an eating issue. She hoards it because she's terrified of being forgotten. Elliot doesn't have anger problems. He has a dead mother and a father who used to choose conference calls over bedtime. She looked directly at the Whitmores. Family isn't DNA. It's who shows up. Who knows Elliot needs his astronaut night light facing east? Who knows Ernest whispers to his mom's photo every morning? Who knows Edna puts on Caroline's perfume when she misses her? That's not replacing their mother. That's honoring her by making sure they don't forget. Dr. Martinez's video testimonials played on the courtroom screen. 3 children healing. 3 children choosing love. Judge Maria Herrera's voice was firm. This court sees no evidence these children are in danger. Quite the opposite. Mr. Davidson, you made a serious mistake. But you've taken accountability. Ms. Smith, your testimony moved this courtroom. Petition denied. The Whitmores left in silence. Stephen broke down in the hallway. The triplets ran from Mrs. Chen's arms straight to Sarah. Edna whispered at first, "Mama Sarah?" And Sarah Smith, who'd survived 9 foster homes and her daughter's death and a slap that should have ended everything, finally let herself cry. The estate's old guest house transformed over 2 months into something that felt less like an institution and more like hope. Floor-to-ceiling windows in the art therapy room. A calm corner with weighted blankets and sensory toys. Couches instead of conference tables. A memory wall where families could pin photos of the people they'd lost. A garden where grief-stricken hands could dig into soil and remember how to grow things. Sarah insisted on non-traditional staff. Marcus, the estate security chief who'd lost his teenage son to suicide, became facilities manager. Jasmine Lopez, 17 and fierce, the foster kid from Sarah's grief group, became youth coordinator. Dr. Martinez signed on as clinical advisor. 2 licensed therapists, both people of color, who understood trauma from the inside. The Johnsons were their first family, Black, from East Palo Alto, shattered by their 9-year-old son's death in a car accident. The father couldn't work. The mother had panic attacks. Their 12-year-old daughter was cutting herself in the school bathroom. Sarah's approach was simple. We're not going to fix you. We're going to sit with you while you figure out how to live with this. 6 weeks later, tiny victories. The father cooked dinner. The mother joined Sarah's grief group. The daughter painted in the art room. Abstract swirls of red and gold. The San Jose Mercury News ran a feature. Tech billionaire and former nanny create grief sanctuary. Mostly positive, except for one anonymous quote. Seems more like Steven Davidson is trying to rehabilitate his image than actually help people. Catherine Whitmore showed up unannounced during an open house. Her conversation with Sarah was brief, tense. This is lovely.
Truly.
But it doesn't erase what happened. It's not supposed to, Sarah replied. Nothing erases grief. You just learn to carry it differently. Catherine left, but something in her expression had shifted. The triplets became junior helpers. Edna led tours. Elliot tended the garden. Ernest read to younger kids, his stutter nearly gone except when stress brought it back. Steven stepped back from his CEO role, brought in a COO. His board was furious. He didn't care. I spent 10 years building a company. I'm spending the next 10 building a family. Late one night in the foundation kitchen, Steven asked, "Do you ever regret coming back?" Sarah paused. "Every time I think about that slap, and then I see what we're building. I don't deserve you. It's not about deserving. It's about becoming." They almost kissed. Sarah pulled back. Not yet. We're not there yet. But they were getting closer. The San Francisco Chronicle hit on a Sunday morning. Foundation of Lies? The questions surround Davidson Smith program. Sarah's Walmart cashier photo, cropped to remove context, ran beneath a headline suggesting she'd fabricated her background. An anonymous former colleague claimed she'd been fired from a preschool for inappropriate attachment to students. The article questioned financial transparency, suggested Steven was hiding assets through charity. The foundation's website crashed from traffic within an hour. 2 major donors pulled funding before noon. 3 families canceled intake appointments. News vans camped outside Filoli Estate's gates. By Monday morning, someone had spray-painted fraud across the foundation building in red letters 3 feet high. At Woodside Elementary, the triplets heard their classmates repeat their parents' dinner table conversations. Elliot got in a fight defending Sarah, gave another kid a bloody nose. Edna refused to leave her room. Ernest's stutter came roaring back, every word a struggle. Sarah found Steven in his study at midnight. "I'll quit. Protect the foundation." That's exactly what they want. His voice was steel. "Someone hates us enough to destroy this. We find out who." He hired Keisha Williams, a forensic journalist who specialized in tracking digital breadcrumbs. She worked fast. The former colleague didn't exist. No preschool had any record. The story traced to an anonymous email from a burner address. Financial records were public and spotless. Sarah's photos had been pulled from her social media, weaponized. 3 days later, Keisha found the connection. Marcus Chun, Steven's former business partner. Chun was drowning in his own messy divorce, had lost custody of his kids. He'd lashed out at Steven's redemption arc through his publicist. Instead of attacking back, Sarah and Steven held a press conference at the foundation. They didn't mention Chun. Just released complete financial records and let 3 families speak about what the foundation had given them. Sarah addressed the cameras directly. "I never said my life was perfect. I said it was hard. I never said I had all the answers. I said I learned from my pain." The article tried to make my past a disqualification. I'm saying it's my qualification. Then Jasmine Lopez, 17 and unplanned, took the microphone.
I'm Jasmine Lopez.
"A year ago, I was cutting myself in a group home bathroom. I was one bad night away from dying." Her voice didn't shake. "Sarah found me at a grief group. She didn't try to fix me. She didn't call CPS.
She sat with me.
Every week. Even when I told her to fuck off." The room went silent. "This foundation? It saved my life. So you can question Sarah's degree. But you can't question whether she knows what she's doing. I'm alive because she does." One reporter started clapping. Then another. The tide turned. A tech blog exposed Chen's connection that afternoon. His company's stock dropped 12%. He issued a public apology. Sarah and Steven didn't acknowledge it. Within a week, donations had tripled. 6 new families signed up. Edna left a note on Sarah's pillow. "I'm proud you're my mama, Sarah." Steven found Sarah in the garden at dusk. "You stood in front of the world and didn't blink." She smiled, tired. "I blinked. You just couldn't see it." Loretta Smith appeared at the foundation on a Tuesday afternoon, 52 years old but looking 65, hard life carved into every line of her face. She'd seen Sarah on the news. Been clean from crack cocaine for 3 years. Wanted something. Their first conversation in 22 years happened in the parking lot, awkward as broken glass. "I'm not here for money or forgiveness," Loretta said. "I just wanted to see if you turned out okay." Sarah's laugh was hollow. "I turned out. I don't know about okay." That night, she broke down in Steven's arms. "I don't owe her anything, but I can't stop wondering what she wants." "Maybe she wants to know you," he said carefully. "That doesn't mean you have to let her." What if part of healing is letting people who hurt you try again? Against Steven's advice, Sarah invited Loretta to Sunday dinner. The triplets were curious, not judgmental. "Are you Mama Sarah's mommy?" Edna asked. Loretta brought a photo album. Pictures of Sarah before everything fell apart. Pigtails. Gap-toothed smile. A doll Sarah didn't remember owning. "I pawned it when you were 8, Loretta said quietly. "For drugs. You cried for a week." After the children slept, they talked. Postpartum depression. Marcus Sr.'s abandonment. Self-medication turned addiction. Sarah shared her 9 foster homes, Amara's death, her own darkness. "I don't know if I can call you Mom," Sarah said finally. "I don't deserve that name. But maybe someday, Loretta? Maybe someday." 3 weeks later, a stranger called. Marcus Smith, Sarah's father, was dying at Stanford Hospital. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Weeks, maybe days. Sarah went alone first. Marcus was skeletal, tethered to machines. 54, but looked 80. His first words, "I'm sorry. You left when I was 7. Mom fell apart. I ended up in 9 foster homes. You don't get to be sorry in 5 minutes." "I know. But I'm dying, Sarah. And I needed you to know you deserved better." She brought the triplets the next day. Not to forgive him, to show him what staying looked like. Marcus cried watching Sarah with the children. To Ernest, "You take care of Miss Sarah, okay? She's special." Ernest's voice was steady. "I know. She takes care of us." 2 weeks later, Marcus died with Sarah and Loretta at his bedside. His last words, "You became everything I wasn't. I'm proud." Sarah didn't say, "I forgive you." She said, "I release you." At the funeral in Oakland, Sarah's eulogy was honest. "Marcus Smith was my father biologically. He wasn't my father in any other way, but he showed me what not to do. And sometimes learning what not to do is its own kind of gift. I release him because holding on to anger doesn't hurt him anymore. It only hurts me." Loretta stayed in Sarah's life, slowly. Weekly coffee. Holiday invitations. She became Grandma Loretta on Edna's insistence. Sarah didn't call her Mom, but she called her back. 18 months after the custody battle, life had found its rhythm. The foundation served over 150 families. Edna talked about becoming a therapist. Elliot wanted to be a landscape architect. Ernest, his stutter almost entirely gone, dreamed of teaching. Sarah had published articles in Psychology Today. Steven had stepped back from his company almost entirely, but they'd never defined what they were to each other. Still co-parents in every official sense. Steven asked Sarah to meet him in the Rose Garden, where Caroline had once planned to renew their vows. He was terrified it was the wrong place. But Sarah had insisted when he asked where felt meaningful. She wanted to honor Caroline, not erase her. "I brought you here because Caroline loved this garden," Steven said, his voice unsteady. "And because you taught me that love isn't about replacing. It's about adding." He handed her a leather folder, not a ring box. Inside, legal co-guardianship papers already signed. "Before I ask you anything else, I need you to know you're their mother. Legally. If something happens to me, they're yours. Not the Whitmores. Yours." Sarah was crying before she reached the second page. An amendment to the Foundation's charter, making her equal partner. A will update, 50% to the triplets, 25 to the Foundation, 25 to her. "Now I need to ask you something." He knelt. "Stop, you don't have to. Sarah Smith, will you marry me? Not because the kids need a mother, they have one. But because I love you. Because you taught me that family is a verb. And I want to spend the rest of my life doing that verb with you. Stand up. Please."
He did.
"I need you to know something. I'm still scared. I still wake up thinking this is temporary. That you'll realize I'm too damaged, too complicated, too much." "You're not too much. You're exactly right. I love you, but I love the kids first. So, if this ever ends, I'm staying for them. If this ever ends, it'll be because I failed. And even then, you stay. That's who you are."
"Yes."
"Yes, I'll marry you." The triplets figured it out immediately. Edna squealed. Elliot asked if it meant Mama Sarah would live there forever. Ernest just grinned. They chose a ring together at a black-owned jewelry store in Oakland. Simple gold band. Small diamond. Nothing like Caroline's elaborate ring. "I want my own story," Sarah said. The ceremony happened in the Foundation garden exactly 1 year after Sarah's return. 50 people. Judge Maria Herrera officiating. Loretta helped with flowers, crying when Sarah asked. The Whitmores came. Catherine RSVP'd yes. Robert showed up anyway. Sarah wore ivory, not white. The triplets walked her down the aisle, one on each side, one in front. Jasmine read a poem. Dr. Martinez gave a blessing. Judge Herrera's voice was gentle. "Love is not a feeling that happens to you. It's a choice you make every day. Sarah and Steven, you've already proven you know how to choose each other. Today, You're making it official. Steven's vows. I vow to stay. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. I vow to never raise my hand in anger again. To measure my success by the people I love, not the things I build. I vow to keep becoming, every day, the man you chose to give a second chance. Sarah's vows. I vow to stay. Not because I have to, because I choose to. I vow to trust that this is permanent. I vow to build a family, not despite the cracks, but because of them. Because we're all broken. And we're all golden. Their first kiss as a married couple. The triplets cheered. Catherine Whitmore wiped tears. The reception was casual, barbecue, the Johnsons attending, Jasmine DJing. The triplets performed a choreographed dance. Sarah and Loretta danced together. Awkward but trying. That night, under string lights, Steven whispered, "We did it." Sarah smiled. "We're doing it. Every day." 2 years after the wedding, the Davidson Smith Foundation had grown to 3 locations, the original Filoli Estate site, Redwood City, and a new center in East Oakland, Sarah's hometown, her insistence. They served over 400 families annually. Jasmine Lopez, 21 now, had become assistant director. Loretta volunteered in the garden program, her hands learning to grow things again. Sarah's book, Staying Power, Love as a Verb, hit bestseller lists in parenting and grief categories. She accepted select speaking invitations, brought the triplets when possible. Every dollar of profit went to the foundation. The triplets were 9 now. Edna volunteered at the foundation, dreaming of becoming a child psychologist. Elliot led the garden program, passionate about environmental justice. Ernest's stutter had vanished completely. He just played Mowgli in the Jungle Book, his voice steady and strong. Steven had sold his company's stake, dove into full-time philanthropy. Foster care reform boards. Scholarship funds for traumatized children. His old tech buddies thought he'd lost his mind. He'd never been happier. The California state legislature called them to testify on foster care reform. Sarah spoke first. "We're asking social workers with 40-kid caseloads to heal trauma they don't have time to see. We're asking foster parents to love children we've never taught them how to support. We're asking kids to be resilient when we haven't given them tools for resilience." Jasmine followed. "I aged out at 18 with $400 and no family. The only reason I didn't end up homeless or dead is because one person chose to see me. We can't build a system that depends on luck." Then Elliot, reading from a prepared statement. "My mom died when I was 6. I was mean to everyone. I broke things. If Mama Sarah had given up, I'd be medicated and in therapy forever. Instead, she stayed. The system needs more people who stay." Assemblywoman Tanya Brooks introduced the Staying Power Act. It passed Committee 11-2. Catherine Whitmore asked Sarah to coffee, their first time alone. "I was wrong about you," Catherine said quietly. "I saw a black woman without credentials caring for my white grandchildren, and I made assumptions I'm ashamed of. I thought family was blood and tradition. You taught me its presence and love." She gave Sarah a bracelet that had belonged to Caroline. She'd want the children's mother to have this. Sarah wore it to every major event after that. The Hall of Resilience opened at the foundation, a gallery of trauma survival art. Pieces from hundreds of families. Jasmine's cutting scars documented in her old sketchbook. The triplets' grief drawings. Sarah's personal items. Amara's baby shoes, her foster care file, the note she'd left Steven after being slapped. The plaque read, "Healing doesn't erase the cracks. It fills them with gold." They planted a tree at the Oakland location in Marcus Smith's memory. Not to honor him, but to honor Sarah's choice to release him. Loretta planted it with Sarah and the triplets. "We plant this tree not for who he was, but for who Sarah became despite him." At 32, Sarah discovered she was pregnant. Terror struck immediately. What if this baby replaced the triplets in her heart? What if she couldn't love biological and chosen children equally? What if Amara was forgotten? Steven held her through the panic. "You have enough love. You've proven that." The triplets were thrilled. Edna immediately started planning nursery colors. Sarah decided, if a girl, Amara. If a boy, Marcus. Honoring both the child she'd lost and the father who'd tried. Too late. 2 years later, the foundation's 5th anniversary arrived. Sarah, Steven, the triplets, now 11, baby Amara toddling at 18 months, Loretta, Mrs. Chun, Jasmine, Dr. Martinez, Judge Herrera, the Whitmore's foundation families, all gathered. 3 redwood saplings were planted, one for each original triplet, roots intertwining beneath the soil. Sarah stood before the crowd, Dr. Sarah Smith Davidson now, PhD complete. 5 years ago, I was fired from this estate. I was slapped, dismissed, told I wasn't qualified. Today, I'm standing here not because of the degree, but because of the staying, the choosing, the 1,000 small decisions to show up, even when it hurt. We're not inspiration. We're not a fairy tale. We're just people who decided that broken doesn't mean beyond repair. It means opportunity for gold. Baby Amara toddled to her, called Mama. The triplets group hug her. Stephen kissed her forehead. Loretta stood with Catherine Whitmore, both grandmothers, both learning. Jasmine cut the ribbon on the new building. From above, the estate looked like a miracle. The foundation, the gardens, the redwood saplings with roots intertwined, the family gathered. Chosen, complicated, golden. Sarah's voice carried across the crowd one final time. Family isn't who you're born to. It's who you choose every single morning, even on the hard days. Especially on the hard days. That's not inspiration. That's just love. And love, I've learned, is the most radical act of resistance there is.
So we stay.
We build.
We grow.
And we fill the cracks with gold. If you enjoy every part of the story, hit subscribe button to get more interesting stories like this.